I would like to call to order the Board of Directors meeting of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District for May 14th, 2020. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Zoom meeting. And Mr. McGlasson, if you would call the roll, please. And everybody, if you would unmute yourself and be ready to speak.
Munson.
Here.
Thomas.
Here virtually.
Githens.
Here.
Hamilton.
Here.
Piedmont Smith.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Swafford.
Here.
We are all present, all board members at least.
Thank you. That's great for a Zoom meeting. Okay, our first business has to do with approval of minutes. And Ms. Piedmont Smith, would you make motions for our minutes, please?
Yes, I move that the Board of Director meeting minutes of February 13th be approved.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, we'll have to do a roll call vote, please. All in favor, please let Mr. McGlasson call your vote.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Swafford.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Unanimously passes.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Director meeting minutes from April 23rd be approved.
Second.
We have a second. Mr. McGlasson will have another voice vote.
Piedmont Smith.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Hamilton.
I'll abstain as I wasn't present.
Swafford.
Thank you.
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So thank you, everybody. We are up to date on our Board of Director minutes, and we're almost up to date on our Executive Committee meeting minutes. Those from February and March are in your packet for your information. We're now ready for the Comptroller's report and to hear from Ms. Connie Hudson about cash flow first.
You there, Connie?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right.
Hi.
Hot, got it, good. Ooh.
Keep talking, Connie. I just had to cut your video feed.
Okay. On our cash flow, our operating balance is 1,724,770.47. Our debt closure is at 11,103.97. Our capital is at 45,413.60, and our landfill post closure is at 761,726.53.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments about cash flow? Ms. Piedmont Smith?
Yes, I wanted to ask about the revenue from recycling. I understand we do still get some revenue from metal recycling, but how is it that we get revenue from plastics and glass and fiber? I thought we had to pay to get that recycled. How does that work?
That contract does not take effect until May 1st. So things delivered for recycling through April the 30th, we would still receive the rebate on. It did 30 to 60 days for them to close all of that out and get all of that to us. So we may yet still get another recycling rebate check under the previous contract. based on their timelines to process all of that when things are delivered to them.
So it's May 1st or June 1st?
May 1st. Things delivered for recycling beginning May 1st are subject to the fee.
Right.
But there's a lag between when they send us the check and when they
Right.
pick the stuff up.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And then I wanted to ask what CESQG is on the revenue statement.
Scott, do you want to explain that?
I do. That stands for conditionally exempt small quantity generator. And those are customers that have business customers and things like that that pay us for their HHW.
Could you tell me where that's listed, please? What page of the packet?
Page 13.
I've just got it.
Halfway down that list.
I'm enlarging it so I can see it. There, I see it now. Okay, thanks. Other
Thank you.
questions or comments?
John, can I just ask, and I'm sorry if I missed it at another meeting, last meeting, but Tom or Connie, if you could, what do you see as the fiscal pressures coming over the next 12 months? What do you worry about? And maybe is this a time to ask that, or is it a better time to ask later?
I think we were going to touch on that later, but since you raised it, it's okay. Let's address this now.
Well, that's I mean, obviously we're just now getting into the new contract term with Republic that has the fees associated with recycling, and we've budgeted for that, and we have our estimates based on previous tonnages as to what we anticipate ultimately that those fees will wind up costing us. But moving forward, we don't know, and curious to see where that goes and how the actual expenses align with what we've budgeted. The current situation with the coronavirus and some of the policies we put into place at our facilities, the rural sites in particular, have resulted in a need for an additional staff member out there. And obviously those facilities are budgeted for one staff member per shift. We now have two out there, but with the limited operating schedule, 2 employees at 2 days per week fits within our existing financial picture. But if we continue to have a need to limit customers on site and a need for an additional staff member to help control traffic and expand our days of operation, that could create some budget situations later in the year with regard to personnel services that would have to be addressed. Those are the two things that most foremost on my mind financially, looking forward for the rest of the year.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Seeing none, let me get back to
I had one actually.
Okay, please.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but what about shortfalls in tax revenues? Is that something that's projected because of COVID? Has that been considered?
I've heard some things, and it's something that has crossed my mind, but I do not have any information, from the county regarding shortfalls in tax collections at this time, to base any assumptions or predictions moving forward on. But I've heard that certainly is a possibility. The next tax disbursement is due to us at the end of June, and see where that is. The backside of that for us is, as we've discussed on some other issues, we have adequate cash reserves to cover budgeted expenses, even if revenues don't meet projections. Not that we want to rely on those reserves if we don't have to, but if revenue shortfalls, whether it be taxes or anything else, occur, as far as being able to pay projected expenses through the end of the year, we have cash reserves to get us through.
Can you remind me how much of our revenue is property taxes and how much is other taxes?
Well, for the 2020 budget, we have 2.68 million revenue projected in the budget, and of that, about 2 million is taxes.
And is it property taxes?
The 1.8 million is property taxes, 140,000 in excise tax, and 7,000 in CVET.
So, property taxes aren't due until later this year. So, wait, are they? No, I'm thinking of.
There's a May installment
We
due,
were
and
just
that's what gets dispersed in June.
Oh, I'm thinking of the income taxes that are coming in later.
Income tax, right.
Okay, so we should be okay for our June disbursement.
I have not heard anything
Yes,
officially
was
to
already
say, to
collected.
suggest otherwise. Yeah.
No, I thought property taxes too they're due in June, but they're given 2 months to folks if there's no penalty to delay 2 months to turn your property taxes in, I thought. So we're going to get a later disbursement probably from the state,
Yeah.
I think.
But Julie, are you the one that said earlier today that the treasurer has reported that she's pretty much getting things in as expected?
She is. So I would like to comment that in 2 weeks, the county council will get a presentation from the auditor about our various expected revenues, including those that come from the states such as CVET. And we can certainly get a fix on what percentage decrease there might be. And of course, share this with the district. But for now, property taxes look solid for spring payment. Are there other questions or comments? Okay, let's move on to payroll and claims. And I have to get to them fast enough. Okay. Ms. Hudson, would you like to go through this, and then I'll ask Ms. Piedmont-Smith for a motion?
Okay, we have had pre-approved claims which have been examined and approved, and I believe they are in order of $299,668.69. Today, we're asking approval of payroll and claims of $10,299.22 for a total of $309,967.91.
Thank you. Ms. Piedmont-Smith, are you ready for a motion for today's approval?
Yes, I move approval of the payroll and claims in our packet, as well as those presented today at the meeting.
Could I have a second, please?
Julie
I
seconded.
think that was, thank you.
It was me.
Is there any question or comment from board members?
I just had
I think this seems very straightforward. Go ahead, please.
I had a question about the compactor rental. Maybe
It's
the compactor rental on the claims for today, the $4,435 to Hobbs Equipment. Is that, maybe I just don't remember, that seems like more than usual. Is that like for 2 months, or am I just not remembering it right?
No, that's just
we're losing you.
Can you hear me?
that is just a monthly fee
Okay. And
for
it's the same,
South Walnut and all 4 sites.
and it's the
Right.
same as it has been?
Mhm.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. We're having some audio problems with that, but I want to remind everybody that we have discussed the compactor rental before because it's a pricey item, and the district has staff has examined whether it would be feasible to purchase our own compactors rather than renting them. But the issue has always been that this would be more expensive because we would need a backup compactor because these tend to go down. And and the people providing the service Hobbs Equipment does have a backup if any of theirs go down. Mr. McGlasson, is that in essence did I summarize that fine?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. You know, the service is the other part of it because, you know, there's guaranteed service, a service agreement, you know, is a part of that. And having a backup compactor is part of it. But the other issue is if the compactor is located, you know, we're storing it somewhere and we've got to move it and get it mounted and set up and ready to go. You know, there's additional cost with doing that. And if one needs to be replaced, then you know, Hobbs pretty quickly has the ability to load one, get it to us, and get it set up, rather than us trying to find somebody that has the equipment available to do that, and how quickly can they do it for us.
So thank you. I'm sorry, we're having some audio problems and people may be missing portions of this, but
Actually,
are there other
Cheryl,
questions?
I think you may be having connectivity issues. I'm able to hear everything fine on both my
I
connections.
am out here at the end of DSL. Would it help if I turn my video off?
It would definitely help, yes.
Glad to. There. My hair is better anyway. Okay. So I'm hoping that helps. And are there any other questions about our claims or even the compactor? Okay. Moving on, then we are ready to vote on this. Ms. Piedmont Smith made the motion. Ms. Thomas seconded, and Mr. McGlasson will call the roll, please.
Swafford,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Githens,
Yes.
Piedmont Smith,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. Next on our agenda is a resolution regarding Monroe County landfill financial assurance. This is a yearly thing that we do. And Ms. Piedmont Smith, would you read the pertinent parts of the resolution, and then Mr. McGlasson can discuss this for us.
Sure. Resolution 2020-04, Monroe County Landfill Financial Assurance. Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District that the 2020 post-closure financial assurance update for the Monroe County landfill shall be demonstrated utilizing the local government financial list as prescribed in 329 IAC 10-39-3A6. The Monroe County Solid Waste Management District shall request from Monroe County, Indiana, via the Monroe County Council, that it establish financial responsibility for post-closure care on behalf of the district by providing the necessary instruments, documents, and financial records to satisfy the post-closure financial assurance for the Monroe County landfill per the same state code citation.
Thank you. Mr. McGlasson?
Is there a motion for the resolution?
I move approval of resolution 2020-04.
Second.
We got a second. Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like to review this, Mr. McGlasson?
I can. From staff perspective, this is an annual housekeeping measure that we do. Had a real good relationship with the county and the county council on this for a number of years. There's a memo kind of summarizing where we are on page 56 of the board packet. As indicated, the financial assurance amount for this year's just over 2.5 million. It's about $83,000 decrease from the amount necessary last year, and I'm not sure how familiar people are with this. So, in the essence of time, I'm not sure what else to say about it. But if anybody needs any clarification or has any questions, we can certainly respond to those.
So do we have questions or comments from the board? I think people remember this from prior years. The county council will meet on May 26th in a work session. And if this is brought to the work session meeting, it will be considered and hopefully approved to meet the state's deadline. So first we want to have a vote from the board of directors before the county council considers this.
And if I can, Ms. Munt, I would add, we have, due to scheduling constraints and stuff, we have taken this to the county council in years past at a work session, and they have taken it up and made a decision at a work session on this issue before.
Yes. So thank you. I just want to thank Mr. McGlasson for providing the memorandum about this. I think it's very helpful, and it will be very helpful for members of the county council as well. So if there are no further questions, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Jones?
She may have already stepped off.
She said.
Muted my dogs.
So did you, yes or no on the resolution, Lee?
Yes.
Piedmont Smith?
Yes.
Githens?
Yes.
Munson?
Yes.
Hamilton?
Remind me what I'm voting on. Sorry.
To take the required annual landfill financial assurance to the county council for them to make the demonstration on our behalf.
Oh, I'm all in on that. Yes. Thank you.
Thomas? Swafford?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Tom, how are we going to sign the resolution? How will that work?
Well, I've given that some thought, and I don't have a good answer. I will, in the essence of time, I will go ahead and get the council agenda request submitted tomorrow with a copy of the resolution, and indicate to them that at this meeting, The board passed the resolution unanimously, due to, conditions requiring a virtual meeting. Signatures have not been obtained, but I will contact all of you, and we'll figure out a way to individually get that around and get signatures on that.
We should be able to sign a PDF.
If I can pull it out of the board packet and get it distributed that way, if everybody has the ability to do that.
Just to clarify, you would send it to us, we each individually sign it, scan the page with our signature, not the whole document, and email it back to you, correct?
Yeah, that works. That's, I have a PDF program that has a signature saved. I can insert my signature into a PDF document if need be.
Yeah, me too.
However, whatever your capabilities are, if you can insert it, great. If you need to scan it and send it back with your signature, we'll make that work as well.
Thank you. Is Cheryl still there?
I'm here.
She is.
Okay.
We're ready to move on to department reports. And Mr. McGlasson, would you begin, please?
I can. Before I get into the report that was provided, some new information I got today at the association board meeting. We were anticipating solid waste districts being studied or put under review in the Environmental Affairs Committee this year based on the rotation that they had been doing. That did and didn't happen. The Legislative Council yesterday assigned to the Environmental Affairs Committee the topic of studying item recycling market development board assessment of recycling markets in Indiana and the nature and extent of recycling resources to meet the needs of the state. So solid waste districts obviously fit in there somewhere, but exactly how they're going to undertake that study, we don't know yet. We don't know the full makeup of the committee. Anticipation that Representative Walkins will be the chair, as it is scheduled to be chaired by a House member this year. But beyond that, that's really all that we know at this point. This all just happened yesterday at the Legislative Council. So stay tuned, and we'll provide updated information as we can on that. So, and then with regard to the report that I provided to you, obviously the administration building is closed to the public. Staff has been in and out as needed, working virtually to the extent that they can, our reuse programs remain suspended at this time, and the recycling centers open on Wednesdays and Saturdays only, with a limit of 8 customer vehicles being allowed in at a time. Getting mixed results from customers on the schedule and the vehicle limitation. The vehicle limitation has only been in place for starting last Wednesday. And by all accounts, from my observations as well as reports I've gotten from staff, it's gone fairly well. We're moving people through better than expected. That's not to say that we have not had to hold up people at the entrance, but I guess last Wednesday, which was the first day we did this at the Ellisville site, was probably our worst wait times. But people weren't, from my understanding, it wasn't a 15 to a 30-minute wait. It was 5-10 minutes at most, and people were moving through the facility. Still have some issues with customers not wearing face masks or other PPE and not not practicing social distancing. Certainly not all of them, but some, and we've had some comments, complaints from customers about that. We do have signage up at the facilities reminding people to practice social distancing, requesting, encouraging them wear masks or some other sort of a facial covering when they're visiting our site, and obviously not to come if they're ill. But that being what it is, it's gone better than I anticipated. I can say that. Not perfect, but better than I anticipated. So. Julie, do you have a
Ms.
question?
Thomas?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. I know we received some email feedback from some residents about their visits to a site. We don't need to belabor that, but I guess I would say that it's up to the solid waste district to require masks within the facility, as we're going to do in county buildings starting Monday. So although we are still closed as of Monday, the county buildings are still closed to the public, but we're requiring our staff to wear them. But once we do begin opening by appointment to any extent, we're going to require, until this pandemic's over, we're going to require face coverings. So you can set that up as signage, at the entrance point, and make that a requirement. How that's enforced, I don't know, but I think if that's the expectation, then it shouldn't be introduced inside the facility, but actually at the gate or at the road. The other thing is just ensuring that signage is not handmade, but it's clear, it's clearly printed. It's, we just have to make sure that our expectations are clear to the public, and also that for our staff, that they are modeling what we expect the others to do. So we expect them to wear face coverings. If that's the expectation, then they need to be informed of that. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. And I also wanted to ask what the plans were for opening an additional day or so, to see if that helps alleviate some of the concern about congestion at roads, especially places like Bethel, to the northeast rural site, where it can easily, I think you can only put two, 3 cars in the driveway max. You can't have a long line of cars sitting on the railroad tracks, right? So right. I'm wondering if there's some idea now of how we're going to gradually reopen those sites and do so in a safe way.
So I would like to comment also, because I've received emails. And I would like to ask Mr. McGlasson, in discussing this, to tell us about the number of employees who are being paid while we're not open during our regular hours, and if we might put those people to work one more day a week without incurring additional personnel costs.
Well, under the district's policy, if an administrative decision is made to close a facility, employees who were scheduled to work at that facility that day do get their regular wages. That is policy, written policy of the district. Employees that are scheduled to work on the days that we have closed, are getting their regular wages. That said, currently at the rural sites, with the need to control the traffic flow, to limit the number of vehicles in the site at a time, we have added an extra staff member to those sites the 2 days that they're open. We're based on scheduling availability, we're attempting to utilize those employees who have regularly scheduled hours and adjusting their schedule to get them to work those shifts as much as we can to limit the amount of administrative leave that goes onto the books. And then with regard to incurring additional expenses, at the rural sites, generally there's one operator on the clock when the facility is open. And they're scheduled for 5 days a week. So there's 5 shifts a week at a rural site. With the 2 employees there at 2 days a week, we're paying for 4 shifts per week. So 4 out of the 5 that are budgeted for. So if we went to a 3rd day and had to maintain the need for 2 staff members, that would be 6 shifts a week, and that's beyond our current budget for those facilities. Ms. Thomas, did you have a question?
I did, if I might. Sure. I hope I'm not stepping on your toes. I guess my follow-up
No.
would be if the sites were open more days, we wouldn't need extra personnel because there wouldn't be the traffic jam situation, right? So that may be the balancing point there.
I agree with Julie. I think if we open the site back to regular hours, we could staff back. But I mean, that would obviously be, just kind of wait and see how things go. But I agree. I think we've got to get those sites open back up. And just for clarification on the mask, are you telling me that you want the customers or the residents to put masks on when they're entering the recycle centers, the outside facilities?
Who is that directed to somebody in particular?
Just whoever. You, Tom. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I was listening to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're obviously encouraging and requesting that happen. We have not, made a requirement of it to where we, would turn somebody away if they did not have the ability to cover their face. Earlier, Ms. Thomas suggested that we should implement such a requirement, acknowledging that she's not sure how that would be enforced. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure how that would be enforced either. I would comment related to that, in some of the comments, complaints that I have heard regarding where we're currently at, people are saying that, the facilities are outside and there's no risk and people shouldn't have to worry about anything, which I can't say I agree with, but that is what has been heard. So, you would probably get that, you get some of those same comments, arguments against implementing such a requirement.
I agree with you 100%. I think it would be a nightmare. I think we would be asking too much for the employees to face that kind of situation. I think you would get a lot of feedback from that. Also, but I do agree, if we put signs up and ask nicely, I mean, there's no harm in that, but to require it, I think is just a logistic nightmare. So
I would like to clarify for everybody that is exactly what the district has done. They put up signs that are nicely printed, not hand lettered, and it is a request. It is not mandatory, and we're not asking our employees to enforce anything in that regard. The only enforcement is limiting the number of vehicles that can come in to the recycling area, and that is to maintain social distancing. But I think if we can be mindful of our budget and attend to the particular sites that need additional days open, that doesn't bother me.
well, and I'd just like to add also, if we're paying for the extra staff person 2 days a week, if we go back to the 5 days a week schedule, maybe adding the extra person on a Saturday or another busy day would not be, in the beginning, probably a pretty good idea.
Scott, they're your facilities. Do you have any input on this?
Well, the extra person currently is there to count cars. And are we talking about eliminating the 8 car count currently? And secondly, we would need an extra person there if we're going to enforce the mask issue, because that needs to be done outside the fence area, not inside the fence area. And I worked Dillman last week as the second person, and I can tell you that definitely less than half of the folks had face coverings on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see how that's going to go, what the board decides on the face coverings and how many days we're talking, because we're going to need the ability to count cars if we're going to implement that in state aid. So we still got some decisions to make as far as what direction you're going to go.
I would say,
oh, go ahead.
I would say that the Dillman mask percentage follows very closely what I see at Kroger South and some other retail operations. It is not a surprise. Julie, Thomas? Oh, you're mute.
Isabel's next.
Well, I was just going to say, if we're not going to require masks of people who come in, then we really have to emphasize social distancing. Then we have to assume they're not going to wear a mask. And I feel like we need to keep the limit of cars then. And to keep the limit of cars, we need that second staff person. So, and we don't have the staff budget to do that and reopen 5 days a week. So, I mean, I would rather remain on a limited schedule of 2 or 3 days a week and have the extra staff person to limit the number of cars.
May I ask, is the traffic on Saturday a lot heavier than the traffic on Wednesday?
I would, that would have been my prediction and my assumption. However, last Wednesday and Saturday, that did not hold true.
Is that because of weather?
No, well, last Saturday was kind of chilly in the morning, but I spent my day Saturday basically making the continuous loop through the sites. I was each site 4 or 5 times and was amazed. Much less traffic than I anticipated. Not that there weren't necessarily busy times and that there weren't times that people had to be held up for a few minutes at the gate. But I, based on what I'm used to seeing on a Saturday, I was very surprised at there was much less traffic than I anticipated.
But that's only one day, and
yeah.
And typically though, traffic is much busier on Saturdays. Yes.
If we, I guess my first question is just to verify that staff members employed by the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District are required to wear masks while they're working. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Then my follow-up is if it's cars that are the concern, then you could use cones or some other means to indicate where each car can be. Indicate parking areas for vehicles, and you don't have to have a person doing it. And then if there's overflow, like at the one I go to, Northeast Bethel, they can just loop through and come back around off of 45 in Bethel. So it just seems like it could be, you have to park in an assigned spot when you come in, wherever it is, right? And if there isn't a spot, then drive through and come back and wait for an opening. It just seems like, again, I wonder if having more days being open, or even just having an extra person on Saturday, if that's typically the busiest, as Dan suggested, and then having it open the rest of the week would alleviate those traffic concerns anyway. If you had 2 people on Saturday, but you, especially if there's staff who don't have full-time work they can do at home, that could be their job on Saturdays. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here about some options, because it seems to me if you can get people in more days of the week, you won't have traffic except on a Saturday potentially.
But if you mark off parking spaces, I mean, as long as there is room, people will park there. Whether it's a marked space or not a marked space, people are going to pull in. And having just one person, one staff member they're not going to be able to prevent that. So I don't know what the solution is, but I think that, you know, it hasn't been shown that Wednesday is any less busy than Saturday. So I'm just worried about pulling that second staffer.
Well, I really like the idea about the cones. I think that's a great idea. And I think if we go back to 5 days a week, we're going to alleviate a lot of the traffic anyway. I think it'll probably go back to where Saturdays, we might get that second person, but I think the rest of the time through the week will be fine.
Hey, Scott, can you speak at all that, you know, based on operating history and I know it's been some years since we did actual traffic counts and stuff, but, you know, I mean, do the operators report to you? Is there a pattern of, you know, things get really busy this time of day on a Monday and this time of day on a Wednesday? Or do you see any patterns like that where we might anticipate an influx of people regardless of whether we're open 5 days a week or not?
If assuming 5 days a week, weather has a huge impact on stuff. Saturdays have typically just been a busier day in general, because people aren't working then. That's the big benefit of Saturday is they're not working, so they bring a lot of their stuff. Bulky items plays a huge factor. So there's really no rhyme or reason. And going back to the cone idea, people are going to park wherever they want, however they want. And a big factor is a lot of times the trash drop off is a factor. Bulky items is a factor. So it'd be very difficult to expect people to park a long ways away for trash, for bulky items and things when they're used to doing it already without having a second person to direct traffic. But I kind of warming up to the idea of 5 days a week and 2 people on Saturday. That's the best idea I've heard so far.
Thank you.
That goes over budget. I like that idea too, but it's more money than we had budgeted.
It is, but I mean, and I hesitate to go here, but you know, if it's a short-term deal, I mean, we have the 5 shifts a week at the rural sites budgeted for those regular operators that work either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday, Saturday. We also have, addition to that, we have money budgeted to pay those relief operators when the regular operators are on vacation or sick, where they're using paid time off, they're getting paid anyway. And, you know, so there is some additional money out there, but, you know, I don't want to get into a situation where we use all that now. Somebody's on a vacation in October and I don't have money to pay a relief operator. Julie?
Thank you.
Maybe there's a middle road here of open 4 days a week instead of 5 for now. And then that extra shift goes on to the Saturday. Just choose the slowest day of the week and keep it closed that extra day for right now. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
Using your logic, Julie, I would say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, take Tuesday, make them a Saturday person.
Yep, I think that's good.
I agree.
Right, but historically, Scott, haven't you been closed on Mondays so that usually it's something in money that you're closed?
Monday is the main site. The sites themselves, the 4 rural sites, are always open on Mondays.
Oh, okay.
And I will say that Tuesday is probably our least busy day of the week.
That's good to know. So I have a question for Tom or Scott. Are you keeping track of the number of clients that are coming to each of the sites? Are the not you personally, but the staff?
No, we're not keeping track of the cars because our main objective right now is 8 cars. That's the objective right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm asking, relying on the regular operators, you know, and their, you know, what they're seeing in relation to what they're used to seeing when everything was normal. And, you know, and then, you know, and it's, I don't know that they're seeing a great deal of difference. I do know from other messages that we've received, Facebook comments, and people that I've talked to. I mean, we have people that they're not doing their recycling right now. They're hoarding it because they have space to do so. And so we do have regular customers that at this time, for their own reasons, are not using the facilities, and will hit us hard when they're ready to come back.
When they run out of room.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do too. We shut the recycling down for a week or two, and I'm afraid that I've heard that the people are afraid to load all the recyclables in and get there and everything's shut down. That's just what I've heard over here. So
yeah, and we still I have still fielded some, you know, a few calls over the past few weeks where people are asking if it's okay to bring recyclables now. So that message did not get out as well as it could have or should have, I think, when we started upping the recyclables again.
Yeah, I would definitely, a press release would be a good idea.
And, I mean, they
did them.
Yeah, the HT had when we started accepting recyclables again, the HT had an article on it.
Right, but I guess I'm saying when you change the procedure and then put it on the homepage as sort of a flag banner or something, plus the social media stuff. I don't know, just making suggestions.
We'll put it out there anywhere and everywhere we can, as loud as we can. So.
Okay, so the sense of this discussion is to move toward a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday schedule.
Is there a consensus to do that?
That sounds good. And then on Saturdays, we would have the second person.
Right.
Yes.
And for clarification, please, what to do about the South Walnut Street site? Because it's not usually open, a Monday?
What comes to my mind is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
So, Scott, your thoughts on that?
You say Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
Just for South Walnut.
Right.
Yeah, I could live with that. That's
okay
with me.
And then on top of or aside from all of that, I think that I'm ready to start bringing the administrative staff back to work. We will not have an issue in our office building with social distancing. We have masks available for everybody. Everybody has their own office. Even the Purdue Extension, if they bring their people back, everybody has their own office. We would only need to implement some rules, some policies about, you know, how many people in the kitchen area or in the copy room at a time.
Okay.
Are you going to require masking, face coverings for all employees inside, and then keep the building closed to the public for the short term?
We would leave the building closed to the public at this time, and with an eye toward maybe doing by appointment only at some point in the near future. But yeah, we have masks available for all of the staff, if somebody's in their office with them or they're out of their office, I would say they need to have them on.
Okay.
We have an internal county document. I think I can send you a copy of that if you keep it internal to the district. That might help you.
Is that the one adopted yesterday?
Yes.
I have a copy of it.
Okay, you do. Okay, good. Excellent. Well, then I don't have to worry about the legalities of it, do I?
No. Thank you. I think it's a good idea to open the administration building to the regular personnel. And I think when the county moves to admitting people to county buildings by appointment, admitting members of the public, that would be a good time to also do that at the district. And there may be members of the public who wish to visit 4-H as well.
Yeah, and Amy Thompson and I have, we've both been in the building fairly regularly through all this, and we've had plenty of discussions about, you know, what happens when things start to return to normal or start moving in that direction, and how we would manage our staff and visitors in the building, and we'll certainly try to come up with something that works for both entities.
Okay. I just think it'll be less confusing to the public if more entities are on the same schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, other questions about this? So, Mr. McGlasson, is that it for your report, or are we ready for other departments?
That is it for mine, but for the sake of clarity and whoever may be out there watching or listening to this, since we are discussing making a change to our current schedule, you know, today is Thursday, and you know, we're talking about having the rural centers open on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. That will not take effect tomorrow. The rural sites being open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, South Walnut being open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the administrative staff coming back into the office would begin on the week of Monday, the 18th.
Thank you. So, are you ready to move on to other reports?
I am, if you are.
Okay, yes. Mr. Morgan.
Well, we kind of have talked a lot about what I was going to report. So I was going to report about our experience on Wednesday of last week. But I just want to say that staff has really, really been trying hard to, I don't know what the word is, but just cope with everything that's been going on. So I think they are very ready to get back to a somewhat normal schedule, as well as I am.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
If I could, I'd jump in real fast. I'm sorry, but you know, Scott's saying that I cannot say enough about the attitude and the efforts of our staff through all of this. They, you know, they're the ones out there, and they face the majority of the wrath of our customers when they're unhappy with decisions that we have all made. And I'm just very, very thankful for their efforts through all of this. And like I said, I can't say enough about their attitude and efforts over the past month or so.
Thank you. Shall we go to Mr. Lee Paulson, please?
Hey, how are you? The only thing I'd kind of report is that what's in the report, and that Mary Beth and I just completed, as of yesterday, completed the May groundwater sampling event. So everything, we've been out there at the landfill pretty much taking turns and taking care of everything that needs to be out there almost daily since this thing has started. But the groundwater event went through without any kind of problems or hitches or hiccups. All the materials and all the bottles and all the samples have all been delivered safely to the lab, and now we're waiting. Probably it'll take them a month to 6 weeks by the time we get all the lab results back to compile that and get that to AECom for their statistical analysis, and then send that off to the state. So, but other than that, it's been pretty routine for us. As you can see in that report, Mary Beth has been going out. She's dealing more with roadside cleanups or reports that we get that way. We've suspended any kind of visits to the houses, individual houses at this time, just until we had direction as of today. We've had quite a few community cleanups and adopt a roads as people have had time. So people have been contacting her and getting together and doing a lot of that stuff. So we're very thankful for that, because there's been a heck of a lot less traffic on the roads. It's been a lot safer for people to be out there. Overall, the weather's been really good too, at least on the weekends when people are thinking about these things. So there's been some bright points within this stuff, at least from, my point of view with what's gone on. But overall, everything has been pretty routine for us.
So thank you. That's great to hear about the adoptive road cleanup work that's increasing. Are there questions for Mr. Paulson? Mr. Swafford? No? Okay. So thank you, Mr. Paulson. And that concludes all our reports from staff. Next on our agenda is public comment. And I see no members of the public listed as participants in this Zoom meeting. So we'll move on then to comments from directors. Please raise your hand if you want to make a comment. Ms. Piedmont Smith?
Well, I just wanted to echo Mr. McGlasson's comments to thank the staff, especially the frontline staff that deal with customers. I was just reading in the paper today how somebody at a convenience store was beaten up because they asked the person to wear a mask. I mean, people are really getting irate, and I know that our own staff have to deal with that as well, even though we aren't enforcing the mask, but we have, changes in procedure that people are not happy with. I think they've been really good sports. I mean, I haven't talked to frontline staff in a while, but I really appreciate them hanging in there and doing the work that needs to be done.
So thank you for stating that. I think we all will join you in that sentiment. Other comments from directors? Well, that brings us to wrapping things up. I want to make a comment that we should thank CATS for continuing to make our meetings available to the public. And I want to thank Mr. Eric Evans for hosting us technologically. And we will meet again in June. If there's no other business, and I see no signs that there is, then we will stand adjourned until June. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone, and thank you.